Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's live LinkedIn session. Today we have a guest with us from the world of Sandler sales, and that's Mr. Frank Gustafson. And Frank, you've been with Sandler for how many years?
I'm in my sixth year with Sandler.
Nice,
40
nice.
years in sales, six with Sandler.
Well, continue. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Frank, and then we'll have
So
everybody do the same.
yeah, I appreciate that. I started 40 years ago in sales, and I got tricked into selling. I didn't want to be a salesperson, and in the telecom business, we were selling used AT&T telephone equipment. If you remember that 182 key where you push a button down and it stays down, and then you push another one down and that other one pops up and it goes. Yeah, that's many, many moons ago. Um, and then have spent the rest of my career sales leadership. I've had every sales leadership job known to man. I've owned a couple of different companies, and I kind of decided. I was thinking about 6 years ago, how do I want to slide into home? Because I've got the gray hair to prove that I've been around the block. And I found Sandler, and I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the methodology and the people, and I said, I want to help salespeople take their game to the next level. And as difficult as that might be, herding those cats, I enjoy what I do every single day.
Well, that's wonderful. And thank you. We look forward to talking more about your experiences with that, Frank, and how that overlaps with the role of AI in sales. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Chris Higbee. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Soar, and excited to be on this call. Looking forward to learning more about how Sandler's using AI, and excited to talk a little more about how we can help.
Excellent. And Barry?
Yeah, Barry Hurd, Chief Digital Officer. I focus a lot on various innovation and technology rollouts. So everything from marketing projects to integrating AI and sort of process and automation techniques. Uh, just generally keeping a hold of the buzz and trying to ride the wave of innovation that's happening that so many companies are struggling with right now.
Right. Thank you for that, Barry. James?
Good morning, James Tippett. Excited to be here this morning. I've been involved in sales in one way or another for the last 23 years. After 12 years in the military, I won't say that I got tricked into sales, but when all you know how to do is blow stuff up, what do you do next? You go into sales. That's the next logical transition. So I've done everything from small organizations where I was the sole sales guy to multinational largest chemical company in the world. So it's been exciting to see B2C, B2B, but sales has really changed, and we're undergoing another change. And so I'm excited to see how AI is impacting for others, and what we think is going to happen in the future.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that, James. And lastly, I'm Thomas Ross, and I've been doing sales process and training development process for right out of the chute, so for well over 20 years now. So I've been doing it for a while myself, and yes, we've seen a lot of changes coming on. Now in working directly with Soar and Soar AI, we're really trying to show how AI is bridging that next revolution in sales. And that's really what we want to talk about today. So I think what I'll do is I'll open up with a question, and just for everybody's interest, what we did today as we started this, and I think it's an interesting point to make, is we created a couple of lists of questions. One the old-fashioned way, where we wrote down the kinds of questions that we thought would be interesting for everybody to hear the answers to by way of our experience with AI in sales today. And then we asked ChatGPT to do the same thing. And in comparing the two, I must say ChatGPT did an excellent job of coming up with questions, almost making our manual list look unnecessary. So it's incredible, just by way of that example, of how powerful ChatGPT can be. But just to open up, and to get everybody loosened up and talking about it, what do we think in general are the key benefits today of using AI for sales? Anybody want to jump in?
Well,
I don't think we know. I don't think we know what all the key benefits are yet, Thomas. There's a couple of the obvious ones, saving time, repetitive tasks, the just simplifying the things that as salespeople sometimes we get bogged down in. So that's been one of the benefits for me, is just kind of automating and saving some time on some of the slog tasks.
Sure. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'd say it's adding to the finally giving us some tuning ability to go through the sheer massive amount of noise that's out there for sales. So it's really enabling that filtering of just massive amounts of data for the average salesperson.
Right.
And Thomas, I would agree with both of those. I kind of think about AI as being augmented intelligence, and it's not going to fix lazy, it's not going to fix timid, it's not going to fix ignorant or bad sellers. But I think what it'll do is it'll help those good sellers that are willing to embrace the technology, become more efficient, more effective. It'll help them take their sales game to the next level. The question that has always been, or here lately has been, is AI going to replace us as salespeople? And at Sandler, we talk about no, but we believe that salespeople who understand the tools and are willing to use the tools will replace salespeople who don't. So I think that's important. It's changing the game.
Totally. Chris, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm just seeing as a pragmatic ability with Soar and frankly other similar solutions that are out there is the ability to review what I like to call game film. So to be able to see a video recording of meetings that I've been involved in, and to be able to just review that and see how I did in terms of just the call mechanics, let alone if I'm really trying to follow any methodologies, such as Sandler's methodologies, for example, to be able to utilize AI to follow along with that and maybe give me a little bit of coaching. And I think most people here know that is really at the core of what workplace AI from Soar does. But it's not just a great idea. I found it to be incredibly valuable and helpful for me from a sales perspective. I was the chief product officer. I don't head sales, I don't run sales, but I'm often very, very involved in the sales process, particularly with clients who are interested in kind of getting under the hood a little bit. And so that's been really helpful for me, especially as someone who is not on sales calls every day honing my skills, to be able to have that capability, it has been incredibly valuable, incredibly helpful for me.
Yeah, and I would agree with all of that, and I would add that it becomes very much like one of our clients has pointed out to us. It becomes like a coach on our shoulders, right? So most meetings today, certainly not all, but most are done through this kind of a session where we're doing live video meetings of various kinds, whether it's on Teams or GoToMeeting or Zoom, whatever system we might be using, and to have something that's actually helping us, coaching us along the way to improve what we're doing and get the results. And it might well be Sandler's AI doing that. In fact, we have an opportunity to do that. So we can actually build that in and help sales teams and help sales managers and help organizations fine tune their sales process against what they're actually doing with, as you said, Chris, using that game film, right? And further to that, communicating with our customers and our clients, the transcriptions from the meetings, the points from the meetings, the ability for them to now go in and apply AI against those meetings so they can see what was talked about and do all those wonderful things. The power of AI for sales takes it to an entirely new level, right? So I think there's nothing but opportunity for that. And I think we're only starting to scratch the surface, and it's only going to grow when we add things like visual cues, and we add things like being able to understand what people are expressing by way of facial recognition and these cues. I think it's going to just continue to evolve and provide even more information for us as salespeople through the sales process. So next question I would ask everybody, and so far we're using we're using the manual ones. We'll get to the ChatGPT ones as well. But why do we think that companies today are hesitant to use AI for sales? And anybody can jump in.
I would think that the primary reason is they call it AI. They're just not familiar with the terminology. I would say that with something like ChatGPT or a large language model, it really should have been brought to market as a process. To all we're doing is really automating and taking steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, and AI is telling us what steps 2, 3, and 4 should be and are in our operating procedures. And 4 and 5 is the next step that it predicts is going to be a reasonable outcome. And we've been doing standard operating procedures for generations. So now that this new word's thrown out there, it's just scaring people a little bit from a technology buzzword statement that if we had said, this is the training manual and this is the 10-step process for AI, it would have gone a lot easier from a marketing and adoption rate.
Barry, I think to add to that, you talk about standard operating procedures. I think one of the biggest issues in sales is accounting's got a process and they follow that process every single time. Shipping and receiving's got a process, they follow it every single time. One of the killers inside of sales is winging it, shooting from the hip, not having a process. And I think that people are maybe a little bit afraid of that. But I think, alongside that is just AI is new. There's going to be bleeding edge, there's going to be leading edge, and then there's going to be those that wonder what happened. I was thinking of a quote this morning. Mark Twain talked about a man who doesn't read has no advantage over the one who cannot read. And I think that AI is going to fall right in that. I think that the Mark Twains of today will reinvent that quote, taking reading out and putting AI in.
Yeah, I totally agree. James, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really liked what Barry said. I think sometimes companies don't really know what AI is, what it will do for them, how to implement it. They're hesitant just because they don't even really understand what the end result is they'd like to achieve. And so it's still, so many of us are still wrapping our minds around what the potential is, what it can do, and then looking at how we're going to implement that within our companies. I talk to a lot of people that the first part of the conversation is just getting them aware even of what the possibilities are, what the potential is with AI. And so it's kind of that deer in the headlights. There's just so much, so fast that there's a little bit of hesitancy, just kind of, that they're frozen in what do I do?
Yeah, those are great points. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I I follow along with a number of experts in this space, in the AI space, and I think the consensus in general is that we don't know a lot about what we don't know. So, yeah, this is an area where I'm definitely going to be, I think, spending a lot more time researching and trying to understand myself, for sure.
Sure. In speaking with many of the companies that we work with today, in terms of what they're doing and how they're doing it, they are working with one way or the other, on purpose or otherwise, AI through various areas of their company, as you were mentioning earlier, Frank, by way of operations and accounting, etc. But the challenge is they're not doing anything on purpose, and they're not doing anything in a focused sense. And with sales, you can be fairly pointed in terms of the outcome you're looking for, which is generally a better customer relationship, and growth in revenue and growth in accounts and all of those good things. So if you apply a focused strategy against what you're doing and how you want to leverage AI, then you can bring in tools that will have that impact. Just to say we're using AI, you can ask just about any company, are they using AI? And the answer will be yes. But if you ask what's been the result of your use of AI, there either won't be an answer or it'll be a very convoluted sentence or two that don't make much sense. So the fact is AI isn't been properly and hasn't been properly introduced, especially in the world of sales. And there's an amazing opportunity to do that. And I think what we need to do is to help people make sure that the reason they do it is defined to begin with. And if it isn't, then you're not ready. It really is that simple. And if it is, then we can look at how AI can be implemented against your current systems, or even depending upon whether you have current systems implemented instead of. So there's lots of ways to do that, but there's so much, as you've all pointed out, confusion about the cost, the how, the where, and who's going to do it, and how do we measure it, and what are the KPIs, and how do we do all those things. These are the things that really need to be defined before you implement it and not after. And that's the challenge. So people buy it, they put it in place, it doesn't work, and they move on. And that's not going to be impactful. So like any other area of AI, sales has to have KPIs and goals put against it. So I think that's...
Thomas, I think there's one other thing that probably bears talking about, and that is there's a lot of companies that have some security concerns around AI and open it up to their networks. I train a couple of very large companies. One of them, a year ago, when I mentioned AI, they said, "Stop! We can't even talk about it. Don't even. There's no way we're going to get access to that." Today on LinkedIn, every other post talks about that they are the #1 user of ChatGPT, and they've relabeled it inside of their own organization, and they've got the security concerns dealt with. Another client, we're walking through how to do pre-call plans and how to get paid by persona and some different things using ChatGPT. That company can't use it on their network. The VP reaches out to IT and says, "Hey, I need you to open up ChatGPT for us." And they said, "It violates our policy. If you want something done, we'll consider it, but we need a 200-word justification." And he thought, well, if I could do 200 words, maybe I could do 300. And guess where he went to get his justification? And it was fantastic. It was amazing. And he sent that off, and jury's still out, but we'll see what happens. And I think that those security concerns are going to get taken care of.
Yeah, and that's actually sort of what I'm referring to here, that we're in the milieu of all of this. Like nobody has any answers really yet, right? So we've got some indications, we've got some, we can prognosticate where we think this is going to go, but we're still very much in the thick of it. And it's going to be those of us who adopt AI earlier in the process who, frankly, are going to be the ones to lead out in a lot of that, or certainly can be the ones to lead out in a lot of that research. And as long as we as a community look at this as less of an area for competition and more of an area for collaboration, I think that's going to be really, really important, because we're all used to kind of saving our secret sauce, our competitive differentiators just for ourselves, and I think we certainly can continue to do that. But AI is we've got a little bit of a tiger by the tail, and so we as AI practitioners have to be willing to be a little more open about that and work together in collaborative ways. That's where the whole partnership model with Soar begins to really play out and make a lot of sense, where those of us who are doing this can come together, be a community to help support one another in this process. And as we learn important things, that we're willing and open to be able to communicate that, at least within, communities like the one that we're putting together at SOAR.
Totally agree. Great points, Chris. Frank, one of the reasons that I really wanted to take advantage of your expertise was because you are, in fact, using AI quite a bit in your processes. And irrespective of brands, what do you think has been the biggest gain that you've seen and that you can continue to bring going forward in terms of its continued development for your clients and your sort of sales training programs vis-a-vis Sandler?
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was an AI selling podcast, and it's actually in their show intro, and they talk about this quote from an author, and I can't remember who the author was, but there's a statement that we use in sales, and that is that time kills deals, and it does. And then the second part of their quote was AI kills time. So I think that one of the things that AI is doing for us is it's compressing our time. It's making us more efficient and effective in a lot of different ways that are sales related. Um, I did a hour and a half training yesterday with a bunch of clients all over the country, talking about creating a prospecting plan. And I thought, okay, I want to give them something that they can go and use afterwards. So, look, I've got all the tools in the world, but I went in and I went to ChatGPT and I created a 12-page document to give them. And there's 4 elements that we talked about in the training yesterday, and that was effective prospecting techniques, and then strategies to implement those techniques, and then a cadence to put those techniques out there to play, and then time blocking in your calendar. And AI put together an amazing 12-page plan on how to get that done. So I think that there are so many areas right now that we're seeing are really helping salespeople gain information, compact time, be more efficient and more effective in the world of sales.
When you and I have been sales training for years and years, do you think that it changes the landscape by way of the skills that we're looking for, by way of the folks that we're hiring?
Okay. Yes and no. Does it change our skills? No, I think it augments the skills that we have. You need to know what to do, and ChatGPT or some AI program is not going to tell you what to do. Humanics AI will look at the stuff out there and tell you what the probability of somebody's communication style is. But if I know that you're a high S or that you're a high D communicator, it doesn't tell me what I need to do. It tells me what it is, but I still need to be able to listen actively. I still need to have a good questioning strategy. I still need to adopt and adapt to that person's communication style. It will help us. It'll help us if we're a good seller. It'll augment us. But it won't augment lazy. It won't augment ignorance. I think you've got to have some process. You've got to have some underlying methodology by which you do things. And then if you can put AI on top of that, it'll accelerate. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. And I think it comes back to what Chris was talking about earlier, as well, with respect to game film. And then what we were referring to by way of having the coach on your shoulder, so that every call that you're doing, you can go back and look. Did I match the style of the individuals? Was I able to communicate in an impactful way? Did I meet the sales questions that I need to ask to make sure that we're actually moving along in a sales process and not determining the best late deficient? So these are the kinds of things that we want to really bring up and be effective with. And AI is a tool to help us be better at doing that. One of the things is a simple thing, but is it ever powerful when you look at the transcription of a meeting, and you can see that in all of your sales meetings, just as an example, you're talking 85% of the time.
You probably didn't close that one.
You probably did close that one. So
Thomas,
yes, go ahead, Barry. I'm sorry.
I was going to interject that the change to the workload and who we need to hire statement is AI is turning every salesperson right now into a manager, and that a lot of them are not familiar or active managers and understand how to structure a workload. But we now all have an option that if you understand a process and you're doing something repetitively, AI can now be that teammate that just literally appears next to you and does that process for you. And you still have to develop your skills as a technical manager to operate that new AI team member. And all of the tools and platforms that are out there doing this for like a SaaS function, that's effectively what they're doing. And we just have to make sure that our sales force has the capability and mindset of, are you doing a process? Are you doing it often? Does this recipe that you're looking at, do you have enough experience to understand this is a great process and a great recipe, and you're okay with doing this 1,000 times over? Because if you have that expertise, you can then say, maybe an AI can do this for me. Right? If you have that understanding, you can take the workload and put it off to an automated process, and then really focus on what you're great at as a human.
I agree with that. I think there's a lot of power in that. James, what would you say with respect to the question of what skills we might be looking for now in salespeople today compared to 10 years ago?
Well, yeah, I love this discussion because I think many of the skills stay the same. You know, they've got to be consistent, they've got to be persistent, they've got to have a work ethic. But yeah, we're going to add to that. I was just thinking as you guys were talking that you can throw me out on the basketball court with the best coach in the world, and AI is not going to make me better at basketball. So, you know, having this great coach is an incredible tool, but you've got to have other skills. You still have to be able to know what the disc styles are. If disc is something that your company is utilizing, and it's a great skill to have and an incredible understanding, but if you haven't developed that understanding, it doesn't matter if AI tells you if they're a high D or a high C, you don't know what that means. So I think many of the sales skills stay the same. We're just adding to it. And Barry talked about that very well. It's adding to those other skills and understanding of AI. I remember the first prompt I wrote brought results back that were not what I was looking for. And so it's developing this skill set of asking the right questions, looking for those processes that can be automated, plugging those in, and then managing the workload, as Barry said. I thought he described that very well. So the skills are adding to, I don't think we're replacing.
Right. Do you think that AI changes to some extent the sales process by way of how we're engaging and how we're bringing customers into that process so that it becomes a better customer experience?
I really liked Barry's thought earlier as far as, you know, we're culling through the information. We're able to parse through that and get better information faster. And so I don't think it changes the steps of the sales process, but it certainly can automate some of what we used to do, you know, the old-fashioned way, you know, looking through databases and pulling information from spreadsheets. Let the AI do that and just tell us who the prospects are based on our avatar and who are we looking for that's a good prospect. Let AI churn through the data and bring those up for us. And then let us do what we do best as humans and work through the sales process and personalize that and really form a relationship and deliver value.
I love it.
I agree with that, James. I agree with that. I think back when I first started in sales, we had these volumes. I don't remember Hoover's. I think they were green books that we would have to go look up information that was printed in these books that were updated once a year. Today, we could go to ChatGPT, we could do the market analysis, we could do the competitor impact, we could do a SWOT analysis, we can understand better our ideal client profile, we could do territory profiling, segmenting, helping build out our value proposition, all those different things, pre-call planning, so many different things that we can do today much faster if we just know how to do that. But you're never going to do those things unless you have that underlying reason why you need to do those things, right?
Yeah.
If I can add a little bit to this, I to answer the question of skill set, I think we've all sort of covered this, but I like to think of AI as sort of a bionic harness, right? It's not replacing us, it's augmenting us, like we've talked about. And there are some really simple ways that it already can and is augmenting the sales process. For instance, helping with forecasting, helping with note taking. I mean, Soar is a perfect example of that. One of my biggest pet peeves is that when I'm asked to jump in and help out on a sales call or a prospect, is that I go into Salesforce or Zoho or a CRM, and there are no notes. The salesperson has, and a lot. This is pretty standard. A lot of sales folks are phenomenal salespeople, but not great note takers, and taking care of kind of the logistics behind sales. Those are the types of things where AI can jump in and help out on not only a really simple basis, but a really powerful basis. So if we're finding ways immediately to utilize AI as a company, then in some ways we don't necessarily have to hire specifically for AI expertise or knowledge, because the company is helping to make some decisions that provide tools there. That said, I would say the number one skill set that we need to be hiring for in people who we intend to really make AI a major part of the sales process is curiosity. If as a salesperson I have the curiosity to be able to ask the right questions, to be able to wonder, what if, then actually AI can be a really powerful tool in helping me to answer some of those questions. And it's really a matter of writing the right prompts or coming up with the right questions.
I love that. Alec Baldwin tried to teach us that it was ABC, always be closing, but it's really ABQ, always be curious.
Yep.
Good, Chris.
Yeah, no, I love that too. Frank, with respect to Sandler and the go forward with AI and these continuous developments therein, how do you see it impacting your ongoing evolution of sales training and sales implementation with your clients?
I think that all of our sales folks that we're training are curious about it. They're wondering how it's going to impact their world. They're wondering what it's going to do. I try to bring it in and talk about it in every training session that I do as much as I can. Sandler's developing new tools all the time. They're always updating and developing their intellectual property and their tools. Some of the new tools that are coming out here soon for the enterprise selling methodology have literally got, here's your tools. Here's 6 tabs across the bottom. Here's the tools. The last tab, here's the AI prompts that'll help you fill those tools out, help you get the information that you need for your pre-call plan, help you get the information that you need for segmenting your market, for your ideal client profile, those kind of things. So I think that just helping folks get a little more comfortable with it, helping folks get a little more aware of that, and that helps them accelerate what they're doing. And I don't think that's gonna. I think that is going to accelerate. We're going to see more and more and more of that.
I agree. One of the key things to the sales process is developing the customer relationship. And what I hear from everybody and what I've seen, and you've certainly spoken to it quite well, Frank, is that time can be saved in a lot of the mechanical steps for sales, and more time can be put in to actually developing the customer relationship and playing much more of a direct role with that customer in solving their challenges and helping them get to the right solutions, as opposed to spending all our time researching or spending all our time writing notes or any of those kinds of things. As Chris pointed out, AI can do all of those things so that we can really focus on supporting the clients. And you know what's changed as well, in addition to, and which really aligns well with AI, is that customers are doing most of their research themselves today. By the time we reach a client, right, most of the research on whatever the solution they were looking for is done. So it's not like we're enlightening them much by way of whatever we might be bringing in general. What we're doing is helping them understand how our solution might be a better fit or not, specifically to their needs. So with that in mind, AI can help us find those clients in the way that you were alluding to earlier, who are already in that path, consistent with what we have to offer. And when we combine AI at the customer service level, at the lead generation level, and we're actually combining and bringing these tools all together, then we've got a powerful set of steps that can help us really focus on the client rather than focusing on finding the clients. And I think that's a huge step that we can make. So how do we feel that, and I put this to everybody, how do we feel that AI can play a role in the continuous learning for salespeople, but not just salespeople, sales managers and sales leaders?
I think, Thomas, you have to expand it even beyond that based on your previous comment. You know, AI is changing the education of the entire market, the consumer side as well as the deliverable side. There has to be a constant evolution for all of us, and AI provides again the way of discovering what those needs are. So again, in how you create the prompt, sometimes we don't know what it is that we don't know, and so it's interesting to prompt AI and say, what do I need to know about? We at Soar work with a lot of different thought leaders, and it's been really interesting, for instance, with the Peter Drucker Forum, to go into their speakers and to be able to do a GPT search and just say, what did X speaker say of note in their address? And to get the response from AI that what they parse out of this hour speech that was of note, that was of value. So I don't need to listen to the whole hour. Here's a quick snippet of what value, at least for the AI, what they found of value. And so as we create correct prompts and ask the right questions, it is so easy now to get brief synopsis of information that before would have taken hours to learn in a class.
Agreed. So when we look at that process and we overlap it with the interviews and the meetings and the sessions and the calls and all these different things that we're doing as sales managers and sales leaders, how can that be done through a process like what Soar and others can bring to that in terms of better sales outcomes?
If I can respond to that, I'd be a poor product guy if I didn't note that what James is talking about is actually a feature of Soar Workplace AI. The ability not only to record all of the addresses from the Peter Drucker Forum, who is a partner of ours and a client, but also then to be able to utilize our RAG search to be able to access that information directly through Soar. That's not something you're going to get just by going directly to ChatGPT. And that would be the case, frankly, with any, like, if I had 10 calls with a prospect, to be able to go back and do a RAG search against those 10 calls to call out, specific concerns that came up or specific needs or requirements that came up. That's incredibly powerful from a sales perspective, to be able to have access to that, to have it summarized really easily, is really great. And I would also say the ability to again, just look at that game film, and if I, especially if I have coaching modules that are part of the Soar AI, that I can have that coach on my shoulder, like you're mentioning, Thomas, that that is basically all about continuous learning. In fact, that's the primary purpose of that capability within Soar, is to have that ongoing daily continuous review of how I'm doing in areas where I want to improve.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we come out of a sales call or meeting or session or what have you, and we've forgotten to cover the key points, right? And
Mm.
or and I have found this, one of the things that I've done is pay more attention to the feedback that we get. And I came away with a couple of key points that I thought a client was interested in really addressing. And then going back and looking at the game film, I find I was wrong. And you know what? I would have missed it. And the impact that that may have on the sales outcome is significant, right? So having the opportunity to quickly review that is incredibly powerful. And, those who do versus those who don't, and I mean by that, those who are going to learn how to use AI in that context and otherwise, are going to be way ahead of those who don't, right? So it's taking your skills with the use of AI to a whole other level. And now you can really focus on what's impactful and really help fill in the blanks of what you missed. What do you think, Frank?
I think that what that does is that that applies some objectivity to the process. Salesperson Bob has a meeting with XYZ customer. Sales manager comes to Bob after the meeting, says, "Hey, Bob, how did the meeting go?" The answer is always one thing: fantastic. Oh, there's no doubt we're going to close that deal. It's awesome. What if you could apply some science? What if you could remove some of that fluff from that, and you can go back and look at, based on your sales methodology, this stack ranks at the bottom of the calls that they made that day, and you can go back and you can do some specific coaching on qualification, on their questioning strategies around uncovering the compelling emotional reason for the customer to act. And if you can't uncover that, you're not going to get the deal. So it really nails down the coaching piece. I've spent hours and hours and hours listening to salespeople's calls, and just, I say, send me your best and your worst call for the week. I get the best call, I get the worst call. They're never sending me the worst call, no matter what they say. And their best one is generally not that great. But how do you apply some science to that? And I think what you're talking about here is being able to really get objective on that, the data that you've got, and collecting that data and say, hey, let's talk about these 3 calls that you had this week, and let's coach on that and coach them up so that next week they don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah, and to your point, and that's a terrific one, Frank, that to utilize this for coaching purposes where another coach is involved, not just the AI coach, it can be incredibly powerful. Of course, you also don't want it to feel like Big Brother, right? Where a salesperson is worried about, oh man, my manager is watching everything I'm doing. And so building out AI tools in such a way that it allows for individuals to have autonomy and some control over what they see, what they share, etc., can be really, really valuable. And what we've done at Soar is build this out in such a way that managers see high level information and high level data. And if there is a request or a need to dive into some of this, then that's up to the individual. It's not up to the sales manager. So no one's being forced to do this. No one's being forced to get coaching. But like you say, it's the ones who adopt it, it's the ones who take it seriously that are going to rise to the top.
I like that, Chris. And I think that if we empower our salespeople with a methodology that is proven, that works, and then they understand that, I think that they kind of know what they look. Bob's going to come out and say that was a fantastic call. Bob knows what he did wrong. He knows where he slipped up, most likely. And to be able to go back and say, "Hey, Bob, walk me through the call. Help me understand what went well. What do you think you could have done better? What are some of the things that you can improve?" And then, hey, look, guess what? That proves itself out by the scoring methodology that we've got here that shows, yeah. And now, Bob, what are some of the things that I can do to help you uh, uh, get better at that particular piece where you're lacking? And I think that salespeople appreciate that because they're coin operated. Ultimately, it's not punitive. It is helping them get to the next level, helping them get to President's Club, helping them make more money, helping them close more deals. That's what they want to do.
Well, and I'll throw out too that without the being big brother or crossing a line and being creepy, the other thing that AI is really helping out when you can count the metrics is, the other side of the conversation that really matters is how the prospect or the customer actually engage with it and score it. Because as Frank said, a lot of the calls that he said, the rep thinks this is a great call or this is my worst call. Did you actually get the customer feedback and the prospect feedback on that? For anybody who's ran that process, those two scoring systems are completely misaligned typically in a lot of organizations. So AI can actually help with that persona perspective of management thinks one thing, the sales operator thinks one thing, customer thinks one thing, and one of those is right and one of those makes money for you.
Great point. Great point. For everybody here, and just out of curiosity, how many of us here today are using ChatGPT and AI in general through one of these programs, and Soar has it built in already, but using it to formulate emails back to those we've had meetings with or in general? Is everybody doing that? Maybe everybody can comment on the good, the bad, and the ugly with that.
I could tell you an instance where it really helped me was I was able to go back to a call. I'm a high I, high D, not a great listener. Um, and what recording the calls and having the transcripts and having the scoring has helped me do is to be able to be active and be able to listen because I know that I've got that information. I'm taking notes in the background. And then going back, I went back to a call that I had and I said, and I asked, I prompted, I said, what were, because I thought I knew what all of Dennis's pain was. And I said, what were Dennis's key pain points? Brr, it kicked out 9 key pain points that I probably would have just bypassed. Now I'm able to take and capture that. And then our next call, I can talk about Dennis. Here's the things we talked about last time. What's changed? And then we can carry the conversation forward. That has helped me tremendously.
Excellent.
So on my end, I use multiple large language models on email and correspondence. We take 5 to 10 sort of personas on most substantial email campaigns. We do the typical A, B, and C, the predicted flavors of personality, and then we usually do an equal number that would, most of us on this call would be the insane or the creative personalities. And a lot of times that insanity or creative perspective isn't so crazy anymore when you actually think about how you're getting people's attention or how you're actually making a point that sticks with them. That if you go with vanilla, that's typically not going to be a good sounding board for the person hearing it. You need to have some type of hook, and it's a mixture of just the creative flair of marketing and sales.
Agreed.
We have, Thomas, we have an internal tool here at Soar AI that actually assists in verbiage and whether we write an email and then we can get some coaching on using disc styles, using Gallup strengths profiles, using high impact, low impact, and then so there's a couple of different ways that we can coach ourselves here within SOAR using our tools for writing emails and other verbiage. So yes, I do use those tools and love them.
Well, to be clear, those are not, they're internal to the Soar product. They're not internal to the Soar team. So anyone who's using Soar Workplace AI can have access to all of that. And yeah, I do it all the time when I know that I'm writing to a more creative person or a someone who's a little bit more of an A type personality. I want to kind of rephrase my my emails, my texts, whatever they might be, and so I use it all the time for that type of thing. Like we did today, we utilized AI to help us come up with some of the questions and ideas that we're going to ask. I utilize it for those types of things as well. I'll utilize it to help me research a prospect or a client. So it's becoming a really um, not only powerful tool for me, but a necessary tool for my work. It's sped up my ability to be involved in sales while at the same time also trying to run a product team in a way that has really changed my life that I've never experienced in my career. And that's when that happens with just the nascent tools that we have today, this is going to become something that all of us have to lean into.
Agreed. Agreed. Those are all great points. At the end of the day, no matter what technology any organization or team is considering, it always comes down to two things. A, the cost, and B, the return on investment, right? So what do we think the AI component can bring to the ROI for organizations by using it for sales? Did you want to jump in on that, Frank?
Wow. Yeah, you're talking numbers. I'm good with letters, not numbers. Uh, the I don't know. I think time will tell. I know time will tell, but just the ability to, maybe save. I had a situation where I needed to take some images from a document they were in a tabular in a tab or a table format, and I needed to get those electronic. So I started to type them, and I'm like, this. There was 3 pages of it. It's going to take me all day to type this. I pull out my phone. I took a snapshot of it. I loaded the snapshot into ChatGPT, and I said, put this in a spreadsheet. Boom, boom, boom. All 3 of those had them done in less than a minute, minute and a half, and everything was. It put it in a CSV file for me. Stuff like that. Now that's maybe not a sales motion, but things like that can save us 8 hours or 4 hours or 2 hours are going to give us more opportunity and more time to be doing our activities and our behaviors that are pay time activities instead of working on a lot of non-pay time activities like research.
Agreed.
Yeah,
So what is the ROI? I don't know. For me, it's been good, I think.
You were going to say something, Barry?
yeah, I was going to say the ROI for most organizations getting started is, sit down and tell me the 10 things that you hate to do, and let's see which one of those we can remove from your table. To Frank's, scenario, there's a whole list of things that most sales organizations do in their process that they don't want to be doing it, or it's just causing 30 minutes of busy work. And enabling somebody next to them to say, hey, you can take a photo of that and you can get that done in 10 seconds rather than 30 minutes. That brings happiness to the sales organization, right? And one, because they didn't want to do it, but two, because now they can make 2 more sales calls, right? So they're locked on to how they're making revenue.
I love that. Barry, we talk about this thing called the trouble line. And on one side of the line, there's pay time activities, and the other side, there's non-pay time activities. I never thought of it like taking those 10 things that are non-pay time activities and how can we automate those? That's perfect. I love that. I'm glad I was here today.
Yeah. We're glad you're here today.
You raised my ROI.
I would add to that, guys, that there is a really a very, very strong case to be made for ROI, and it can be calculated and it can be put in real numbers. So when we think about sales training for most organizations, they do it once or twice a year. Often it's a one-off or maybe a two-off where they're doing a few rah-rah sessions, and they put their people through these scenarios, and they hope that some of it sticks, and maybe that's going to result in improved sales in that quarter or that year. But the fact is, generally, it's A, either not measured, or B, there's nothing to measure. Well, with AI, that all goes away because you can measure it. Now I can take my team and I can see, are they improving over a period of time? Are their skills getting better? Are they closing more deals? Are they getting more meetings? And are we generating more revenue? So there is a very hard ROI to be made using these coaching tools, using these insights, using the ability to overlap AI with our process and improving our people in real time rather than once a year through a rah-rah session. And I think that's the opportunity that AI and Soar AI can bring, along with incredible systems such as what Sandler puts together with their methodology that can be built right into what we're talking about. Does that make sense? James, what would you add to that?
I think you encapsulated it really well, Thomas. Again, ROI is to be seen. Similar to what Frank said, we're seeing great results initially. I think those are going to improve, not go. I don't think we're going to diminish at all. I think they'll only keep going up. So implement the tools and see for yourselves. My experience has been that the ROIs have been very good.
So, question for everybody in general, and this is something that always comes up, and I get asked on a regular basis. Kind of tough one to answer. Tell me what you think. How hard is it to actually train your team to use the AI in the first place and on a regular, consistent basis?
I think this is somewhat tied even to the ROI question. If you can show them that, and maybe your KPIs are even built around this, but if you can show them that time to close gets shortened, if you can show them that time to the next meeting gets shortened, if you can show them that customer retention numbers stay stronger, those types of things, like Frank mentioned, they're kind of, coin operated. That's why they got into sales. So showing them that they can make more money and do it faster, it'll be, I think anyone who really truly is interested in, staying in sales is, they're gonna they're gonna jump into it immediately. I don't think it's something that you have to go out and try to convince anyone of, if you go about it the right way and really do it through a kind of a KPI driven model.
Agreed.
Agreed. Go ahead.
I was going to double down on the 10 things I hate to do type of statement. If you go and you ask somebody directly, help me automate the things to get these off your desk, they wholeheartedly, they're like, let's get this off my desk. If I ask them to automate the things they love to do, they're protective and they're hesitant to do that because they have job security. There's the human condition that you have to overcome. Just one or two cycles of removing the tedious things off their workload, that teaches them that this tool set and this concept is their ally, right? And now they start embracing some of that automation and the intelligence side, and they start moving it up the things of importance in their own mind to embrace it more.
I love it.
Process. It's just like any other change. It's change management. It's showing the benefits. It'll take an amount of time. Some are going to pick it up really fast. Some are going to do it a little bit slower. Those that I think are the most successful are the ones that'll grab on fast and run like crazy.
And I think if you just start with something like the Soar Scribe tool, you implement it, and the only thing you have to teach the salesperson is to say, "Hey, Mr. Customer, Appreciate the opportunity to get together today. Hey, I just wanted, you may notice it says SourceScribe right there. That's my note taker. That's going to help us. That's going to help me stay on track so I don't have to focus on taking notes. By the way, it'll kick out a synopsis of our call today. You're going to get a copy of that. Are you okay with that? That's all you got to teach them. Once that's done, and they start seeing the benefit of having their call scored and being able to pull the data, the specific data from their call, and you take it away from them, they're going to complain that they don't have it. I think it's that valuable.
That is the best close I've heard all day. So that is an excellent way for us to wrap up, guys. I want to thank everybody for your time. Amazing input, Frank. That was wonderful. Chris, thank you so much. Barry, excellent input as always. And James, what would we do without you? And once again, thank you for your time, everybody. Until the next time.